What is up, everybody? It's your boy Matsu, aka Travis here, and today I'm going to be bringing you my my second place Florida Regional License Exam Tsuyu Asui deck profile. So at time of recording, I just got back in town like a few hours ago. And honestly, it was a blast. It was awesome being able to meet all you guys and hang out with a bunch of cool people. Florida was great. Shoutouts to the person I roomed with, Andrew, aka Go Beyond Gaming. It was really cool to hang out with you some more, and really cool to have the second place hotel. It was really funny. So yeah, let me talk about my kind of thought process when it comes to this list. I more want to talk about the attack lineup because it has changed quite a bit from this list when it was the third place Origins list that I played. I believe here. Let me actually pull up something I can compare this to. Where is? Sorry, completely unprepared. Alright, so this is my Origins list. As you can see, we're on basically 4 of everything except for Eat My Sticky Balls, and we're not playing Chrome Frog. This list, I was on 3 Tape Stream, 3 Frigid, 4 Lashing, 4 Tongue Whip. These are mandatory at 4 of. 3 Tongue Smack, 4 Frog Kick, 3 Eat My Sticky Balls, and 3 Chrome Frog. Now, I feel like the question is, do you need Chrome Frog? And I feel like the answer is no. So a lot of the times this weekend, it felt like I wasn't able to kill my opponent as realistically as I should be able to because of the fact that I had this card in my hand. Because by itself, it doesn't necessarily, like, pressure your opponent. It's just kind of a 6 high for 5 or 4 high for 5 or whatever. It's also something I don't really want to kick from my card pool because it doesn't count towards progressive anyways, so it's kind of pointless, right? It's like, why would I kick this card that doesn't count towards progressive from my card pool anyway, unless I have to for like Amphibious and Tongue Smack. So if I could go back and do it all again, I would probably cut Chrome Frog Takedown because I didn't actually run into enough life decks or Faith Shield decks for Chrome Frog to actually matter. So that's a thing. And I would the thing I miss the most, this is the probably the one thing I regret about this list the most, the fact that I'm not playing 4 Frigid. This is pretty easily one of the best attacks in the deck. It draws you gas, it deals big damage. Like, I can't overstate how strong this card is enough. This card is actually absurd in Asui, and this is the main reason why I would never play Life over Water. Just because this card exists. Like, it's a 7 high for 4, or 6, or 8, or in very rare cases 10, that draws you 2 cards. Like, I don't know what else you could possibly ask for from a card, from an attack in your deck, besides that, honestly. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, it takes a little bit to set up, and the answer to that is no. No, it doesn't. This card was active on turn 2 when I drew it every single game. If I ever checked 2 ranged attacks, and then I drew 3 ranged attacks and a Heat Wave, it was active. And that happened almost every single game where I drew this card on 2. I think there was a single game the entire tournament where I drew this card on 2, and it wasn't active. And I had no way to make it active. And then I played it just as a poke, and I milled 2 ranged attacks, and I had a way to make it active anyways. So, like, there's no reason not to play this card. Like I said, Lashing and Tongue Whip are mandatory. These cards probably need to get banned. more specifically this one. This card is extremely obnoxious. It's a 3-diff, 4 high for 8 at minimum, which obviously scales even harder with Froppy because it's a 3-diff, 6 high for 8 at minimum, with a 1 mid block and breaker 1. You draw 3 of these on turn 2, your opponent probably died. Which, you shouldn't just be able to play 3 attacks and say your opponent died. Not on turn 2, at the very least. This card is one of the most abusable cards in the meta right now, and Tsuyu obviously plays it the best because it's her ultra rare. Honestly, I wish I also played 4 Tongue Smack. Like, if I were to go back and change the list, I would just cut Crone Frog Takedown out of the deck, and I would just move my ratios back to what they were at my Origins list. Because I think, in retrospect, the only thing that needed to change from my Origins list to make me able to perform at this event was my sideboard needed to become better, which it did. My sideboard got so much better. And I needed to add Drowning and Resentment. So the reason I added Drowning and Resentment to this deck is I expected so many Unwavering / Stadium decks, and there were quite a few there. It was a pretty big percentage of the field from what I saw. I know Sam Tate topped playing Denki with Stadium and Unwavering /. We had Jose Norono topped playing not a Stadium Unwavering / deck, but Good Jiro, which was also an Unwavering / deck. We had Brandon Berry? Or, no, not Brandon Berry. Barry Everson. Sorry, my apologies. Topped playing Air Jiro with Unwavering / and Stadium. And then there was an Ochako 2 player in top 8. Yeah, in top 8 that also played an Unwavering / Stadium deck. My apologies. I'm not very good with names, so shoutouts to you. I'm sure you know who you are, if you're watching this. And then, yeah, so it's good against that. It's good against any deck playing Specialized Sound Waves when they try to stack their deck, because then after they stack their deck before they draw, you Drowning in Resentment to add the top card of their deck to their card pool face down, so the thing that they were going to draw is now in their card pool instead of on top of their deck. So they basically don't get to draw the attack they tried to stack, which is very strong. It's a 2 of. If I could go back, I would also make this a 3 of, probably, because this card is very good. It's even good against Tokuyami, because it's a 2 high block that also flips to give +2 or -2 to a stun attack. Which, Dark Shadow Rune is a stun attack, Giant Ice Wall is a stun attack, any of their ranged attacks after they play a Giant Ice Wall with 1 momentum is a stun attack. So I like that. I cut down a 2 Wall Cling. I wasn't playing against many decks where Wall Cling actually mattered. Honestly, if I could go back and do it all again, I would probably just cut this card from my deck. Which I know is really funny to say, but I just think that Face Shield is in such, like, a better position than Wall Cling is right now, that you can probably just get away with not playing this card and or siding it. Just to play, like, better foundations and better, like, more consistent foundations. So, like, 2 copies of this card could be another first villain encounter and another Irrefutable Force of Nature. Because if I wanted to see these cards in so many of my matches, and I didn't end up seeing them. So, like, in my finals match against JJ, shoutouts, I wanted to see these cards as early as I could, but it took me, like, 9 turns to see my first Irrefutable, and, like, 9 turns to see my first villain encounter. So, I wasn't able to win the game the turn he went into Deadlock, because I didn't have the first villain encounter already on the board, which was extremely unfortunate. And then, like, Self-Assured is really good. I love this card. I will always play this as a 1 of in this deck. Just because if you do try to go to late game, then you just draw a billion cards and go off. Struggling with studies. Honestly, I'd like to play another copy of this card. This card is cracked. This card is like absolutely nuts with Frog Kick. It has like that synergy alone is enough for it to be in this deck, but the like just being able to pick up your attacks after you block with them is extremely good. Like blocking with a Frog Lashing, Breaker wanting them, and then picking it back up with Struggling is very good. Other than that, though, I think this list is about, like, where I want it to be. So, like, if I were to change it... Here, let me actually show you guys. This is going to be a thought experiment. So, if I could change it, I'd go 3 First Villain, 3 Irrefutable, cut the Crown Frogs, 4 Tongue Smack, 4 Tape Stream, 4 Frigid. And this is what your attack lineup should look like. This is what your sideboard should look like. This is everything else. The only other option that you could consider playing is you could play 2 Irrefutable and play another Drowning or play another Face Shield. I like 3 Face Shield if you're cutting Wall Cling. Personally, and then the 4th in the sideboard for if you need it. What's their plan? Was good in the matchups it was good in, and pretty mediocre in everything else. Honestly, if I were to change my sideboard at all, it would be, it would be 0, what's their plan? 4 Ambush, and probably, no, not 4 in the main board. 4 in the sideboard. 4 Ambush, and then probably either a Wall Cling or an Ice Storm, like, in the side. Either that, or this could also be the last Creepy in the sideboard. Yeah. So I think this sideboard looks a little better. Either that, or you could also go Drowning in Resentment and a 1-of in the sideboard. I think... So this, in theory, I believe is probably the most optimal version of this list that you could get. If I were to go to a major tournament tomorrow, I would show up playing this list 100%. No debate. I love this deck. Do I think Tsuyu is unbalanced? Yes. Do I think the meta is healthy? No. I think that we have too many characters that overperform in their ability to demolish people on turn 2 with minimal relative counterplay. I'm sure you guys probably watched my match against Tim Keefe. In game 2, I checked bad like twice, and then the game was over. And like, if you stumble once, the game shouldn't just automatically be over, in my personal opinion. So like, stumbling once on your turn 1, like you build a 3, you build a 3, you build a 4, you check a 3, you have to commit your character, and then you play another thing and check a 3. That shouldn't just auto-lose you the game. It should have you in a bad position, but it shouldn't say you just died on turn 2. Because your opponent had, like, the nuts and they killed you. I just don't think that's, okay. How do they fix it? I don't know. I actually don't know. I have some ideas. I don't necessarily think they're all good ideas, but I think it starts with uprooting the top half of the meta and then going from there. I think that all of the characters that consistently top have been topping for a reason. They're extremely strong and they're only going to keep getting better as sets go on. So that would be like your Tokoyami, your Asui, your Ochako 1, your Jiro. I think that all of those characters can just go, and it would make the meta so much more diverse. Although, technically, our meta already is diverse, but it would make it more healthy. I don't think you would have people just getting immediately blown up on turn 2 for no reason. Games would go a little bit longer. And I think that's a good thing. Because I don't think this game is very fun and or interesting when people are just randomly dying on 2 with minimal relative counterplay. I think those are like the least interesting and fun games for either player. And I know a few people that think that Grey Wars are less interesting than dying on turn 2, and I don't know how that's possibly the case. I would rather go to 18 foundations and then have to navigate through my opponent's hand and board interaction to try and kill them than die on turn 2 because I can see that my opponent either exhausted their resources trying to build or they don't have the answers to my stuff immediately on board because it's turn 2 and they didn't have time to dig for their answers. Or they just didn't draw them or whatever. So that's how I feel personally. I'd like to point out, I'm not saying that I did not have fun this weekend, because I definitely did. This weekend was a blast. It was a whirlwind. I'm still I'm pinching myself thinking that I'm dreaming, honestly. It's been so crazy. I love the community. Shout outs to all the people who have just went out of their way to tell me congratulations on topping, on getting second place. It means so much. And honestly, I couldn't have wrote it up better. Playing against one of my good friends and teammates in the finals was just... I couldn't have wrote it up better. It's Omaha versus Omaha finals. How could we draw that up better? And I think that this list is great. I think that if someone put a lot of thought into this deck and like a lot of testing, a lot of practice, a lot of hours, I think you would have such an inherent advantage against most of the field and against most of the people you probably play against, simply because of the fact that you chose to put so many hours and so much time into a deck that is already extremely good at a base level. So I think that Froppy has a relatively low skill floor, but her skill ceiling is actually crazy, because especially with the water version, because your defense is so good that being able to play a good defense and just say, hey, come at me. But if you come at me and you fail, you die. And a lot of people see that 20 health and they're like, oh, I can do 20, that's easy. It's like, no, it's not, actually. I have so much defense that doing 20 is actually super hard. As you guys saw in the finals, it took JJ playing actually 8 attacks on 20-something foundations to kill me. So, if this deck doesn't want to die, for the most part, it really won't die. And that's just kind of how it is. So this is the optimal list, in my opinion. If I were to change everything, this is what would end up being optimal. But if we're just going by the base list that I played, which I'm sure is what you guys want to see, it would be something like this. Let's get all this out of here. The 2 face shield. This is yeah, this is basically a deck building session too, honestly. Crown Frog. And what was the other card in my deck? Man, Brain Melt. Oh yeah, it was a card in my side deck. That's right. It was. What's their plan? 2 of in my side deck. Why am I already forgetting what the last card in my side deck was? You know what? I forgot what the other card in my side deck was, honestly. My apologies. But this is basically what the list would be. Oh, that's right. It was a face shield. I'm not smart sometimes. Alright. Yeah. So this is what the base list looked like. This is the list that I played in Orlando. This is the list I got second with. I play 12 spam. I think playing 12 zero diffs, or not 12 spam, but 12 zero diffs, I think is optimal because this deck wants to build 5 on turn 1 as much as physically possible, and it gives you the highest chance of also building 6 if you play as many 0 diffs and 1 diffs as you can. So sometimes you just build 5 or 6 on turn 1 and then you kill your opponent on turn 2 because you draw 5 orange cards or whatever. And that is part of the strategy of the deck. When you don't feel like you need to play defense and just wait it out. Man, like I said, it has just been a whirlwind. Without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy the deck profile. I'll be doing more like this in the future, hopefully. I plan on going to Gen Con, so if you guys go out there, you'll see me there, along with my friends. And, yeah, it's been Matsu, aka Travis, signing out.
What is up, Matsu Nation? Thank you for watching till the end of the video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, and subscribe. And check out all my socials and my Patreon. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and sayonara.